Good morning, good afternoon, or good night, wherever you are. I'm Jimbojo, and welcome to this, a slightly belated third episode of my series of interviews. This week I'll be talking to the physicist and YouTube debunker who you may have already heard of, AB Science. I'll be stumbling my questions and saying absolutely too often, while he gives elegant and erudite responses on his views and opinions on the flat Earth phenomenon. I'd like you to sit back, relax, and enjoy episode 3 of the Baller Interviews. Hello, AB Science. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Oh, I'm great, thank you. It's good to see you.
Likewise.
Right, so I'll jump straight into my first question. Now, you've already seen them, but my first one is what I call my "Who are you and what do you do?" question. If you'd like to, could you introduce yourself to the people watching and give a brief rundown of what you do and where they can find you?
Yes, I'm AB Science. I'm a physicist working at university. I do research in nanomagnetism, but on the YouTube sphere, you can catch me on the channel AB Science, where I look at some of the scientific ideas behind flat Earth and other conspiracy theories.
Okay, brilliant stuff. Um, how often are you available to be seen? Do you put out a lot of material, or is it sort of infrequent?
I Well, I've been looking back at my channel today and actually have been putting out quite a bit of material, but I don't really keep to a schedule or anything. It's generally I have an idea that pops up in my head and I work it out and yeah, I release it as and when.
Okay, brilliant stuff. Well, I think people will find that sort of useful information to know. I'd quite like people who haven't got channels or who are thinking about it be able to see the perspective of how other people go about creating theirs, so that if they want to, they can know what is and isn't an acceptable or a practicable way of doing things.
Yeah, I'm the last person to be getting advice from how to run a YouTube channel. Some of the
Okay.
larger guys will probably be better positioned to give advice on that.
Well, possibly I'm in exactly the same position, of course. Now, with regard to the flat Earth phenomenon, exactly when did you start to realise that this debate existed at all? And how did you end up coming to your current view as a result of that?
Oh, I mean, as far as a debate goes, that's actually very recent. Now, of course, I learned about the flat Earth probably around the same time most people learn that there are people who believe in a flat Earth, and that's when the rapper B.O.B. came
Yeah.
out as believing in the flat Earth. Now, my first response, probably like most people, was, "Who the hell is Bob? Why is he an idiot?" Um, but beyond that, never really paid much attention to it. Occasionally, hear a throwaway joke, but I never really thought that it was a thing
Sure.
until a colleague of mine really was invited as one of the token scientists at one of the Flat Earth conferences to have one of the debates. And that's when I realized, hold on, wait, there is a conference. That means there must be quite a large group of people who believe in this. And then, yeah, turns out it was a thing, but
Yeah.
it wasn't actually that I figured out that there was somehow a debate as such going on until after I started my YouTube channel, really. So that was
Oh,
about
okay.
January.
Oh, really? So quite recent then.
Yes.
Okay. Now, why do you hold your view about the shape of the world? I know it's quite a general sort of question, but is there something in particular that you tend to point to, or are there sort of more general things that you like to point to?
Well, it's more of a general thing. I mean, the scientific model, it works, and it tells us that the Earth must be a sphere because that is, as you would call, the lowest energy solution.
Sure,
And if you
sure.
consider all the aspects, all the little things in science, they all fit together. And as a result of that, it must be a sphere. So that's really why.
Okay, so it's not so much one great big thing that you point to, but a selection of corroborative things that all fit together to create this picture for you.
Well, yes. I mean, if you consider the whole theory of physics, from a first principles perspective, you really go down to the very most basic ideas in physics.
Hmm.
And you go from there, and then you see, you make a few observations,
Sure.
and from that you can derive things like, Newton's universal law of gravitation and lots of other things, and from that you end up concluding that the Earth must be a sphere, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Now, that's the sort of the why, but there's a where and who aspect to this question as well. I wanted to know roughly where it was, say, around the internet or the world in general, where you found out about the flat Earth phenomenon, and who it was that sort of drove you to become more active in the community, be it someone on the flat Earth or the globe Earth side.
Yeah, and the reason that drove me to kind of do this is kind of part of the science outreach remit that, a lot of scientists feel that, they should be taking part in.
Sure.
And I thought this was a fun topic to kind of explore. But the person who would could probably be attributed to me doing what I do and how I do the YouTube channel as it stands is probably actually Dean Marble.
Oh, really?
Yes, because the first videos I recorded were purely on the basis of a handful of his videos about the flat Earth, and they were the only videos I'd actually really seen about flat Earth. Deciding to purposely kind of stay away from that whole community until I've had my first few videos done, so I could find my own style, what I was comfortable with.
Okay. And now, who do you think counts as an important figure within the community? Again, be it a globe proponent or a flat Earth proponent. Who are the people now that you think are important to take note of or are valuable studying in some way for some reason?
Well, I think, go with the kind of obvious ones where we have Bob the Science Guy or Simon Dan doing their thing. And, you have a lot of the smaller YouTubers. For me, a lot of it is about kind of just the entertainment and just having a bit of a laugh. So people like the Creaky Blinder and Radical are great. And, you've got lots of the new smaller channels popping up, such as Logical Troglodyte and, Jutmonk and those people.
Oh, absolutely. I talked to a few of those guys. They're doing some really good work at the moment. I'm very impressed.
Yeah, they're great. And, it's just a great community, really, as well. So it's nice being able to chat on Discord, and we're talking together over email via, to get some collaborations going and everything. And that's the big thing that kind of gets me going still in this community, is that it is a community.
Absolutely. No, I agree with that. It's vast as well. I can't move without getting a message on my phone from someone who I'm talking to today, or some new video that's come up in it. It keeps me entirely occupied. It's like a third job.
Yeah.
So how do you think this phenomenon came about? I mean, obviously it has existed as an idea that the Earth is flat for quite a long time, and there have been previous events where it's sort of come back in and out of vogue. This latest sort of period, the last, I suppose, 5 years or so, do you have any opinion on where you think that sort of bubbled up from?
This is quite a complex question, really, because at its core, Flat Earth is an anti-intellectual movement, and that tends to, anti-intellectual movements tend to come in response to certain aspects in society where a certain group feel that they're being left out or not listened to or something like that. Now you have a group of people who have got this inherent distrust of the establishment, and then you mix that in with readily accessible false information over social media and YouTubes. And then you allow this to explode, and this whole movement then grows and grows and grows.
Sure. I mean, I think social media and YouTube particularly have been the vast part of it. And Facebook particularly, that seems to be one of the places where the main body of it kicked off, and then it moved on to YouTube pretty quickly, where it was an endless series of response versus response videos. Over time that spread, and recently we've had this sort of documentary Behind the Curve, which seems to have brought it into the public eye. I have a feeling that it's a bit of a bubble. Now, it may not pop and disappear completely, but I get the feeling that it's sort of reached the climax if of whatever it's reaching for, and it's now only going to begin to sort of dwindle and fade away again. I don't know if you have an opinion on that.
I think you're quite right on that because, like any movement, what you need is some large personalities who can build up a following, get people to listen, and we have these people here at the moment. But as it stands, they all seem to be squabbling.
Yeah.
And these personalities are going to fade into the distance. Now, it depends on the timing of if there's another personality that rises up in time to sustain this movement. And if there isn't someone who can do that, then this movement will fizzle down a little bit. And that is until the next guy comes along who can reach a large number of people and who can present the arguments in such a way that they appear to be convincing.
Now, even if it is beginning to dwindle, and I may be wrong on that, obviously, it still represents quite a large movement at the moment. And my view of it is that it essentially offers a threat to society. Now, I know that seems like quite a grandiose claim, but what it does is it damages the legitimacy of education, knowledge, learning, the things that we've been using to build our civilization and progress it for the last however many centuries. My concern is that it will do long-term lasting damage if there isn't some sort of defence mounted against it, which is partly what I'm doing here and certainly what people like yourselves are doing on YouTube. I wonder whether or not you see it as a threat in the same way as me, or perhaps if you see it as more trivial, more benign in some way.
Well, there's many levels to that, really, because to the there's many levels to that, because to the individual right now believing that the Earth is flat, it can be harmful, but there's a lot of choice involved with that. Obviously, we do see people who are completely disengaging from society and, they are ostracizing themselves from their families and people are getting hurt there. But the big concern is that there are some flat earthers there who have children and their children go to school during the day and they come back and then being told by mummy or daddy that whatever they've been taught, it's a lie. And that excludes a lot of potentially really bright students from having a great career in science and through that making this world a little bit of a better place in their own way.
Absolutely, I think it's very concerning. How do you think the general public or people who haven't really heard about this should react to it? I know it sounds like a simple question, but obviously it comes with a variety of answers, and it's difficult to answer. Everyone I've spoken to so far has sort of said, "Oh, well, it's complicated in some way." Do you have a view on the matter, or?
Well, yeah, I think the most important part is to remember that this is an anti-intellectual movement, and an important part of that is people feeling that they're not being listened to.
Absolutely, yeah.
So do listen to these people that come out with these claims. Do ask them to explore that a little bit more, and in a calm way, just tell them that you disagree. And if you're not in a position where you can authoritatively say that no, you're wrong, then keep it to that. Keep it to I don't think you're right there. And maybe then direct them to, people who can inform them of that, who can educate them. But a big component to it is respect. Now, I know that's quite ironic coming from a flat earth debunk YouTuber who's, mainly just takes the piss out of these people, but that's a different environment.
Right. Well, no, I think that's a fair point, to be honest. I mean, the reason that most people that I know have made the debunking videos that they have and satirize the people that they're doing is specifically for the purposes of satire. What they're doing is they're taking what they regard as bad ideas, ridiculous ideas, and ridiculing them. Now, alongside that does come a certain amount of mockery for the individual, but generally speaking, it's not particularly cruel. It doesn't imply an inferiority on the individual as such. It's just sort of laughing at just how bad those ideas are, really. So I think you make a reasonable point. And I certainly agree that engaging rather than dismissal is absolutely the way to go about dealing with this.
Well, that's yeah, and that's something I really try to do. Within my YouTube videos, I will make a bit of fun. Occasionally outright satirize, or I have the occasional throwaway comment
Sure.
that makes fun of the ideas and sometimes just the kind of attitudes within that group. But when it does come to the individual, I do always try to kind of start off as a bit of a pedagogical exercise. Asking, why do you believe those things? Now, sometimes you kind of make a bit of progress. Other times, it is people, they're just trolls. They're coming in to really stir up and cause an argument, really.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's. I think you've represented a very considered and thought out view. I think people will find that useful and valuable to listen to, so I thank you for it. Essentially, I'm going to bring it to the last question now, and this is the one that I ask everyone, which is about arguments for the flat Earth versus the globe Earth. Do you have a favourite argument which you would give to someone who is either a flat earther or someone who's perhaps on the fence, where you could say to them, look at this argument / experiment, or go to this particular place, book, website, whatever it is. This one thing is the best thing, in my opinion, to help sway your opinion on the matter.
Well, when it comes to an experiment, I would say that the Eratosthenes experiment is probably the best one because it's easy to do, and you can do it with people as a community. You can work together to do it, gather the data, and and analyze the data. And if you do it for more than 2 points, then you can definitely test the shape that the Earth is. But as an argument, I would actually take the simplicity side of it, because the flat Earth model, if there were ever to be a model or a theory, it requires so many caveats. It requires so many a little bit plugged in here and there for it to even become internally consistent, let alone have any predictive power.
Absolutely.
Whereas physics is really simple. And that is really where it sits. It's, you can basically from just considerations of of conservation laws in physics and the interaction between kinetic and potential energy, you can from that figure out a cohesive theory of motion. And from that you can then make some observations and conclude that gravity exists and carry on that way, and then you can figure out really that the Earth must be a sphere, as I said earlier. And it's that simplicity in physics that is really quite convincing.
Absolutely. And that simplicity helps because those same building blocks end up describing all of these different sort of observations that you're making. And as we mentioned earlier, there's this corroboration between them, whereas as you also pointed out, on various models for different observations that the flat earthers have brought forward, there's always a caveat, like ether must exist in order for this to work, perhaps, or you have to already have decided that you're on a flat surface before you can decide the sun is close and small. Like every single model, quite apart from the fact they rarely fit together, in and of themselves seem to have an extra ingredient required. Whereas when you take the models of the sort of the globe Earth, what you'll find is they neatly jigsaw together one after another, and it's all based on these same simple, elegant first principles.
Yeah, precisely. Yeah, because, why do things, accelerate? Because of forces. Why do forces arise? It's because of a gradient in the potential energy from one region to another. And so it's that gravitational force which makes the Earth a sphere. But the same principle applies to electrons moving down a voltage. So it's the same ideas that make a computer work, for example, are the same ideas that tell us that the Earth must be a sphere. And then we can also go out, test it, and verify it. And the flat Earth, it cannot even come up with a model that is even internally consistent.
Absolutely. It's not even coherent within itself. No, I've noticed that a lot. Frankly, good luck to them building one, because if I ever do see a model that has any level of internal coherence like that, I shall be impressed. in several years of watching, though. It's never come up yet.
Well, I've tried.
Yeah. Okay, well, look, this has been a fantastic conversation. It's been really fascinating. I think you've brought some much-needed gravitas to the interviews, being a scientist as you are. I'd just like to know if there's anything more that you'd like to bring up in terms of projects that you've got coming, or new videos that are coming out, or anyone else who you'd like to maybe shout out to, or someone else's work you'd like to mention before I let you go.
Well, I'd just like to kind of do a quick shout out for Leah's Logic. Actually, she
Sure.
takes she runs a channel that really kind of looks at the psychology behind it, which we don't actually see that much in this community. It's all kind of very physics related. So it's nice to see some of the psychology stuff there, and she's kind of given me some great ideas as well for future videos.
Okay.
Now, I'm in the early stages of producing a series which actually looks at the culture of flat Earth and everything.
Okay.
It's still early stages, and yeah, videos will be coming out as and when they pop up, and when the ideas pop in my head.
Oh, well, on that note, I'd actually like to bring up my own sort of a channel that I'm aware of, run by a chap. He's got a channel called Red Flag Rick, but also one called Personality Aware, where he's also looked at some certain personality sort of associations with people in the flat Earth community. Also, Leah's Logic, who recently subscribed to my channel and who I've recently subscribed to as well, who's doing some fantastic work. I really would implore everyone watching to go out and check her out now.
Absolutely.
Okay, brilliant stuff. Well, thank you very much for sharing your time with me, and I apologise for all the technical difficulties we've had getting up to this point.
Not at all.
It's been really nice talking to you. To everyone who's watching now, I'd just like to say thank you very much for joining me again. Obviously, if you liked the video, please like, and if you really liked it, subscribe and hit the bell so that you can get updates on all the latest videos to come out. I've been Jimbojo, and these have been the Baller interviews. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good night, wherever you are. Thanks very much, and goodbye.